Welcome one and all to episode 62 of the Megavision Show, the companion podcast to Megavision's magazine. Today is December. We're in December now. December the 6th, 2020. The year is almost over. This horrible year. I'm Graham Cookson, production editor of Megavisions, and joining me this week on a freshly fallen silent shroud of snow, he is a rock, he is an island, it's SCOTTYMOS, the managing editor for Megavisions, and no one else. So, welcome. Yes.
It's me, I'm your island.
You are.
Isn't that how it goes?
I can't remember, to be honest. It's been a while since I've heard that song. But, after last week's insane idea of streaming a game live while doing the podcast, we're kind of coming back to normal. So, as always, we'll be answering some of your burning questions. We'll have our picks of the week, and we'll have a feature discussion, which is, as in the build up to Christmas, we're going to make it Christmas related. So while we oh my God, I've lost
What's going on? Are you looking at the outline, or are you just looking everywhere else?
I'm looking at the outline, but it's actually stuff from last week, and I've not forgot to update it.
Well, that's your fault.
Completely my fault. But yes, as we step into December, and we step 1 foot closer to Christmas, let's get things rolling with what we've been doing this week. So, Scotty, what have you been doing this week? Yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting in on the Scrubverse podcast, episode 72. You can check. But not much else. The week back after a holiday is always horrible at work. Very busy, so played more Puyo Puyo for the review. The Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 thing. That should be out if I'm diligent enough by the time this episode is out. But other than that, we've been watching Christmas movies, and I picked up a lot of stuff. Since we recorded on a Friday, I normally do stuff and live my life on the weekend, so I did a lot more right after the podcast, pretty much. But I did pick up a bunch of magazines. Yeah, front cover there, that says, here's the dude you've been warned about, and if you open it up, it's Sega Visions with Knuckles on the cover.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
So I highly doubt anyone could read that address, but I'll cover it up anyway. Yeah, I grabbed a bunch of, man, look at this old ad. It's just a hand coming out of a foot leg thing. That's the 90s, everybody.
I love looking back to these old retro Sega magazines and stuff. There's just some weird adverts and stuff. It's like, how do we advertise how awesome this game is? Let's have like a giant skull floating here for no reason. It's like, wait, what?
Yeah, or how about this one of, he wears size 22 Triple E shoes on his feet. His opponents usually wear them on their face. You want to guess what that's an ad for?
Is it one of the basketball games at all? Like NBA Jam or...
Sort of. It's Shaq Fu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so been reading through those, getting some ideas for what we do here at Megavisions. There was I think I showed you guys this one issue is Penn and Teller on the cover. I can't, these stupid there's like a cardboard tearaway cover on top of the actual cover, but there's Penn and Teller. And then the actual article, though, is so poorly designed because it's like this hypnotic circle thing that you have to literally turn the magazine sideways to read some of it. Maybe that's fun for kids, but since I help make a magazine now, that drives me a little bit nuts.
Yeah, imagine reading that on the bus to school or something.
Yeah. But look at this ad for the X Band, where you could take your Sega Genesis online. Do you remember that?
I don't think that's actually a thing over here, like the X Band.
Oh boy, I can tell you probably were not missing out. Stop playing with yourself is the top of that ad, so that makes sense, right? Yeah, wiener jokes.
That's good.
Outside the cool stuff, I got some other cool stuff. This store near me is going out of business. It's a retro shop that sells music, movies, and games and stuff. They actually are the creators of Haunted Halloween 1985. If you've played that 8-bit game, it's on Steam. They released it on NES cartridges as well. But got a bunch of stuff from that store. I'll go through my grabs here real quick. I got a Reliant K album. It's actually a birthday gift from my mom. And then I got a movie collection, both Bad Boys movies on Blu-ray for $10. Can't pass that up because I didn't own either. Daredevil Derby 3D, which yeah, I don't know how much you can see the back, but it looks like it was maybe a Super Off-Road clone. So I'm like, let's check this out. It's also somehow 8-player. But I tossed. It's a PS1 game, so I tossed it into the PS3 because I don't have an actual PS1 anymore. Turned it on, went to the title screen, and Rachel walks into the room. She's like, "I remember this game." I'm like, "I've never seen it before in my life." A bunch of goofy cartoon characters, but didn't really play it too much. I just wanted to pop it in and make sure it works. But that was pretty cheap. And then I also got. I'll save the most exciting thing for me for last, but the most exciting thing for Graham right now. I bought Advent Rising.
Ooh.
I could win $1 million, right?
Oh my god.
That's still possible.
That's totally possible.
On the original Xbox. Whoops, there's my receipt.
Yeah.
You want to see a great... It has the manual, but it also has this. 2 free months of Xbox Live.
Yes, get in. You win.
So, if kids are starting with the PS5 and Xbox Series X, they won't even know... They won't even understand this cardboard card with a tearaway code. Like, it hasn't been used yet. The little tearaway thing is still on it.
I'm sure it's still golden.
I could probably still actually use it. I don't know how that works, really. And then lastly, I got a Dreamcast controller adapter to use Dreamcast controllers on on PCs. I was fucking hunting for this before the marathon. I needed it for the marathon, and I couldn't find it anywhere. Store an hour away has 3 of them in stock. So that's what I get.
So I hope you bought all 3.
No, I bought one.
Oh, man.
They were each $25, but they were going for the normal retail price. Well, a couple bucks off, so what was that? But anyway, it's what it does is it's... Oh, interesting. I just noticed it shows the bindings on the back, like what the control is actually switched to with the face buttons and everything. But it's a box that allows you to plug in 2 Dreamcast controllers and then use those controllers on your PC.
Yeah, so that's cool. I've got one which I think technically works with Saturn and PlayStation and Dreamcast. I think I need to find it. I think I lost it a while ago.
I mean, they also had like ones that were for SNES, NES, GameCube, and I think that was it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, though, like I have that retro, or I mean, is it Retrobit or 8-Bit Do or something? That Saturn controller that is a USB controller.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't really, but there's nothing like that for Dreamcast. So I thought I'd get that because there are some games through Dreamcast that I would like to play that are just way too expensive. But someday I'll stream them and maybe I'll use that converter. We'll just say.
Sounds good.
You know what I mean?
One thing I just wanted to touch on, for anyone who doesn't know, when Scotty showed up Advent Rising, that is a game that Chris and I streamed recently. We played through the whole... Well, I actually played through the whole game. Chris was talking to me about it because Chris played it back in the day. And it's a fascinating game. It's kind of made towards the end of the original Xbox's life, effectively. And it was meant to be like the next big, almost like Halo killer style game, even though it's very different to Halo. Because it's a third-person game. You can go into first-person mode, but it's not really a first-person shooter as such. And they plan to have like a whole series of games. It's got a really epic storyline. But and on the front cover, it does say you could win $1 million because the idea was that I can't remember. There was something that you could do, which basically someone would win $1 million.
Oh, I can tell you. Race to Save Humanity. Download and find hidden Advent Rising icons to win $1 million or hundreds of other cool prizes. And then it says GameWorks, Gamester, Sobe Adrenaline Rush, Brady Games.
Right, okay.
So that's probably why they gave you the bonus 2 months thing. So because you have to do it through Xbox Live or whatever.
Yeah, but it never actually panned out, as in like they actually cancelled the $1 million prize thing because the initial sales were so poor. And it's really a shame because it's actually a very solid game. It's of its time, so there's some things in it you think, oh, this bit not, it doesn't really work as well as more modern games. But you can tell for its time it was actually very spectacular. And the whole thing is you're a human, but there's like alien races out there. and you unlock these potential powers that humans actually all have within them. So you become almost like a demigod towards the end of the game. It's really cool. The soundtrack is amazing. Yeah, and it's actually a very fun game. So I'd never played it before, but we played it recently, and you can get it on Steam. The Steam version is good, but the controls are a bit janked up because it was not really designed for control pads, and the actual keyboard and mouse controls are fine, but not amazing. So there's one boss I got stuck on, and it took me ages to do that. I had to actually do it offline, off our stream, because the controls just weren't working properly for it. But anyway,
Wow.
I hope Chris says on the Xbox it works really well. So hopefully you'll play it, you'll have fun with it.
It was $5. Was it worth it?
We'll see. Totally. I'd say that. Yeah. If not, you can get it on Steam, as I say. I think it's like only £7, maybe $10 or whatever it is on Steam. So it's not much, but yeah, awesome. And so is that it? Is that everything for yourself?
Yeah, that's all I bought, surprisingly. Cool. That's all I do is buy stuff, I guess.
Awesome. So since our last 2 podcasts now, actually, oh god, I still have not been able to put up my Arcade Racing Legends review for the Dreamcast, partly because I got back to work and it's been a bit manic and I just haven't had the time. And then I reread the review that I'd written, so I'm doing a written review and also doing a video review. And the written review was way too long, and I was just like, I'm gonna have to edit most of this out. It's like 3,000 words. I'm like, this is too long for a review. Because I think, as I spoke to a couple of weeks ago, there's a lot of really good stuff in it, like very impressive stuff. There's also a lot of annoyances with that game which hold it back a bit. I won't go into them all now, but I think hopefully when my review comes out, you'll fully understand. But yeah, I need to edit the video as well, basically. So I've got all the video content.
And that actually
together.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, what? Sorry.
My copy showed up as we were talking about it last week. Or was it Friday? Yeah. Wow, that was one whole week ago, Scott. Get with it. Yeah, it showed up in the mail as we were recording, so I do have my copy in now.
Have you tried it yet?
Nope, it's still in the shrink wrap.
Oh man, I'd very much like to speak to you about it once you played it. Maybe next week on the show we could have a quick banter about it, because that'd be interesting. Interesting to get your take. But yeah, anyway, so hopefully I can get that this week. I can't promise anything. And this is the problem of juggling a life and a job and also all this nonsense that we're doing. But other than that, I haven't really got any pickups. I downloaded some stuff digitally on the Xbox, which one of them I'm actually going to talk about today, but no actual physical pickups this week. Nothing really of import either. So yeah, that's it. That's my amazing life. So with that, we'll move on for the rest of the show. So we've got some feedback in the feedback forum of Doom.
Feedback of Doom.
So just a quick one with that. We have something from Saturn Memories. So not the last week, but the week before, when we had Anti-Chris on, it was a Sega Saturn's birthday in Japan, and we got into some Saturn conversations. And Anti-Chris was talking about pinball games and how one of his favourite memories is very recently his wife basically wanted to play a pinball game with him, and she was apparently really amazing at it. And he was playing, I can't remember which game it was. There was a pinball game on the Sega Saturn though that they were playing. Yeah, I can't remember which one it was. Was it Pinball Effects?
Last Gladiator or something. It was the game that I actually have.
Oh, okay.
I think it's called Last Gladiators. I'll correct us as you go here.
Okay, fair enough. Well, so Saturn Memories on the Discord, he said to Anti-Chris, get your wife... Okay, I'm not going to be able to pronounce this because I can never pronounce anything. Get your wife Necronomicon?
Necronomicon. You have not seen The Evil Dead, have you?
I have not. So he says that's the sequel to Last Gladiators, and it's even better. So there's a shout out for anyone who's into Saturn pinball games or just pinball games in general. Check it out.
Yeah, the first one is Last Gladiators Digital Pinball.
Oh, okay, awesome. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
so little about pinball video games. I've played like 3 in my life. I'm not completely against them. It's just never been hugely into pinball, but that's cool. And how do you say that again?
Necronomicon.
Necronomicon. Okay, that's something that's coming into my dictionary. Why am I the one who always reads out these words that I could never pronounce?
You're the host. You run this circus now.
God damn it. And Scotty, wasn't there... I think there's some more feedback that we had on Twitter, if you know.
Yes. Through Twitter, at Cybersonic8472, or Nicholas Schaefer says, I have a friend. This is relating to when we talked about things interfering with real life and us losing the immersion of whatever we're interacting with, be it a game, movie, show, whatever. Cybersonic says, I have a friend who's just like Sheldon. He has a quirky but good fashion style. He matches but lots of bow ties. The one big difference between him and Sheldon is he can't remain still. He oozes confidence, but at all times he inappropriately moves and fidgets. But I will say I love Big Bang Theory because it finally helped my wife, who will not watch anything sci-fi, fantasy, comics, or video games, understand me. She totally identifies as Penny, and she asks me questions to understand the jokes. So I feel a little bit bad because there is a nerd out there who has fashion sense and is also a genius. So shout outs to your buddy. But I never thought of it that way, that Big Bang Theory could enhance anyone's life. But if there's a way to do it, I guess it would be with Penny as the vessel. So, I mean, good on that then. So I still hate the show and everything around it, but if it can help your relationship, that's awesome.
Yeah, just to give extra clarification, when we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, one of the things that came up was the Big Bang Theory. I know you and Anti-Chris really dislike the show. I don't hate the show. I've enjoyed it to an extent. I don't think it's as good as everyone makes it out to be, but I enjoyed it. And but that was one of the comments we had about your feedback was of how one of your feedbacks was Sheldon wouldn't be able to dress as well as he does. He's very fashionable in the show. And from my personal experience, there was a guy I used to work with who, he was a genius, but his fashion sense was god awful in that regard. He tried to like almost mimic how other people dressed at work, like, quite cool shirts or smart shirts and t-shirts and jeans, but he never quite pulled it off. But I guess, here's the thing. You can't really stereotype everybody into the same category. There are people out there who will be different. And as you say, it's awesome. If the Big Bang Theory has helped enhance your relationship and stuff, that's awesome. Like, brilliant.
There are totally jokes in that show that are made for people of a different, scholastic caliber as well. So I'm not saying I'm a genius, but also there are some jokes that I'm just like, I don't know what that means, but I guess it's funny because the canned laughter's there. I think my main hate from it is because when I worked in retail, different areas, and I have friends in my different friend groups that are not gamers, like they would enjoy it and watch it and ask and relate it to me. And it was just so far from the beaten path of what I am and what my nerd culture is. So, I
think
that's cool though.
Maybe that's the problem with the show almost, that if someone sees you as, because they like in the Big Bang Theory, they are all effectively geniuses. They're all professors and, got masters or whatever, doctorates in certain types of fields of science, and they're gamers. So I think a lot of people just think, oh, you're a gamer. You must be just like this. Or you must be just like Leonard or Sheldon or Cooper Polly or whatever. So, I think maybe that's an issue for some people who more just casual gamers or just gamers in general, that maybe that doesn't really fit us, but people think it does. So, I think that could be an irksome thing. But anyway, this is a topic we could go on to for a whole entire show, I think. But otherwise, as we say, awesome. And with that, we'll move on to SCOTTYMOS MALSAG or Wonder.
Yeah, it's the MALSAG. We got the MALSAG. Beautiful MALSAG. Oh, nope, that's wrong. That's very wrong.
Yeah, let me get that thing open. And that's right, it's time for the MALSAG of Wonder, where we've got nothing today because no one said anything. Fuck off.
Lovely stuff. So
yeah, we got nothing. There's nothing in there.
Well, that's sad. That's sad to hear, Scotty.
I can't tell you any rhyme or reason of when I send that thing out, if we get responses, if we don't, what time of day, what day of the week. I don't know. maybe we should open up the email floodgates or something.
Maybe we should.
You can email us at Graham cooks it up at superhotmail.com.
Sounds good to me. We should also open up an MSN Messenger chat thing, I think. That'd be...
Yeah, let me bring up my ICQ real quick, and we'll be good to go.
Well, we could get the MySpace page back up. I'm sure that would be something awesome to have.
I went to a MySpace page once and just kept getting emails. I didn't even log in. I just went to MySpace for some reason.
Oh, brilliant. Anyway.
It's just like, hey, remember MySpace? Please don't forget us. You have an account. MySpace. Yeah.
I love that with MySpace. You can now log in with Facebook. So that pretty much says it all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, last time I went...
Graham, you didn't know that like a Nintendo game came, or a SEGA game came out on Nintendo, but you knew that you can log into MySpace now with Facebook. What? I don't know what planet you're on anymore.
I miss MySpace. It's so good. I say you could do that now. The last time I tried to do it was about 2 years ago. So... But 2 years ago, you could log on with Facebook. So,
all right, I'm going to go to MySpace right now. Let's go to myspace.com. Okay. Let's see what's going on here.
Let me try it.
It looks just as boring as it did before because they've tried to minimize their look, and now it's just literally black and white, and it looks like a website trying to sell formats for websites or something. Like it's boring. There's no personality. Let's see who's on the top here. Fear the Walking Dead. PJ Harvey shares Nick Cave collage to announce Is This Desire vinyl re-release. Young Bloods. End of the Fucking World Season 3. Yeah, this is the best Christmas songs of 2020. Godfather 4 could still happen, says Paramount. So lots of hot stuff going on.
Well, I've got some breaking news for you. I've just clicked on log in, and you can log in with both Facebook and Twitter now. So there we go. That's a thing.
Good. All right. Is there a bidding war for MySpace? Is that what's going on right now? Or?
I wonder if I can remember my MySpace. Oh, yeah, I'm going to have to do this offline. I wonder if I can remember my MySpace login because I miss my old page.
Don't do it.
Great stuff.
Don't do it.
I had some great photos. I was friends with like Green Day, man. It was cool.
Yeah, like
so this. You can become friends with real big people and bands and stuff who would never ever speak to you, but it felt good. Felt good back then. So let's move away from social media of yesteryear and move on to something possibly more current, but also probably more really retro. Our picks of the week. Cool. So as always, with our picks of the week, we are going to talk about something we've been enjoying over the last week or so. So this is stuff in the world of entertainment, books, movies, games, board games, TV shows. It doesn't matter. Something that we've been enjoying, and we feel like you people, the folks at home, stuck in 2020 along with us, might enjoy as well. And we're not saying these are the best things ever, but they're worth a shot. So, Scotty, I'll let you kick it off. What is your pick of the week?
Yeah, I got around. It just released on November 25th. Insert Coin, a documentary about Midway, the arcade / game company. They're known mostly for Mortal Kombat. Before NetherRealms now does Mortal Kombat games, but the Insert Coin documentary was done actually by an employee of Midway. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher his name, but it's Josh Tsui. It's his last name's just Tsui. Sorry,
I'd say it's Sui.
Maybe
that's what I'd pronounce
but
it.
He. Yeah, but it's really cool. It's very well done. It has a lot. It starts with like Narc. They're one of their first game was Smash TV. Talks about that, like making it bloody and just doing the bloodiest they can with it. And talks about Narc, Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam. They even talk about The Grid, which is great. Did you ever play The Grid?
Which one's The Grid?
So it has it would come in a set of 3, but there's a ball and a joystick, and you play. It looks honestly like the Blitz with the color scheme. If you want to look it up, you might have seen it but never played it or something in an arcade. I don't know how big it was in the UK. They didn't make many because you had to buy. It's almost like Killer Queen, how you have to get 2 giant cabinets. You had to have a minimum of 3 cabinets to play one person per cabinet against each other. But it's like Outrigger. If you for Dreamcast of, it's just an arena shooter, third-person arena shooter. Okay. It's actually pretty good and definitely ahead of its time, but Ed Boon kind of made that as his stress relief after doing so much Mortal Kombat. But I mentioned that just because it was cool to hear about The Grid. But no, they talk about just Midway's, like, you know, Williams Pinball and Williams Arcade and other divisions that formed into Midway. Ed Boon is not in it. He's kind of in it through different clips and stuff, but John Tobias, John Tobias, Ed Boon, Cybot was named after them in the Mortal Kombat games, but those two are basically the fathers of Mortal Kombat, for those that don't know. John Tobias is in it a lot, along with a lot of people from Midway, like Eugene Jarvis, Ernest Klein. It enraged me, so I'm hesitant to say this, but Paul W.S. Anderson is in this fucking documentary. He is the director of the Resident Evil movies, but his first video game-based movie was Mortal Kombat.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, which is just like... Yep.
Which is one of my favourite video game-related movies, I will say.
But it's
Mortal Kombat.
I will say it's not... It's one of the better ones, because it is... You can see what they did. I mean, if you want a true to Mortal Kombat, quote-unquote, movie, it would have to be rated R. But if you do that with a Mortal Kombat movie, you got to make it family-friendly so that it actually sells. So I will say that in mind. The Mortal Kombat first movie is not too bad. Yeah. And I did watch that recently. We watched it on the sideshow, like, within the past year or two or something. Yeah. But yeah, this documentary is really cool. It's fun seeing how they created the digital effects, like filming people and like sitting them on step ladders as they're doing kicks and punches to make them like fly across the screen and stuff like that. Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb is in it, along with a lot of other people outside of Midway. It's actually only through the Alamo Draft House right now, Alamo On Demand. Alamo Draft House is a very fancy theater. If you had gone to them, it's basically like tables set up and they bring you food and stuff while you're watching the movie. There's not any near me. I think the closest to me is honestly down in like Virginia, but I'm not don't quote me on that though. Maybe Ohio. Doesn't matter. Anyway, what does that matter in 2020? But you can go to their site to rent it for $10, or you can buy it for $15.99. There's also a Q&A session with the creator of the film, and then God damn it, I couldn't find their names quickly enough when I was jotting the notes down, but it's about an hour long, but it's very interesting. A dude from actually ESPN interviews them, but that kind of shows too, like, Midway they were an arcade giant between Mortal Kombat and NBA Jam alone. Like, insane how popular those games were. To the point that now the NBA Jam, they actually mentioned this in the Q&A, which I forgot about, but the NBA Jam by 1UP has Wi-Fi capabilities. So I'm not sure how faithful it is, or like not faithful, how reliable it is. Like, if you're literally just hopping into tournaments with people or what, but that's still a really cool idea, I think. If there's any way to bring arcades back and make them relevant, it's to make them online compatible, I would say. And I mean, things are already in arcades and things like that, but Insert Coin is really cool. Unfortunately, Midway's not around anymore, and as I was watching this, finally... Oh, you know what? I'll take this second to say shout out to Alamo Draft House. I bought this on the 25th, or I rented it, and it was a 48-hour thing, and it was dumb on my part to rent it the day before Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving break, because I just forgot. Like, I started watching it on my lunch during work, and I just forgot about it. And so I went back to it Friday, day off, thinking like, oh, I'll finish this up. But it was like 48 hours from the timestamp, so it was like 12 or like 1 o'clock my time. So I emailed them real quick. I was like, hey, can I just like pay the $5 difference to just own this movie since I didn't finish it? They got back to me pretty quick, and they said, hey, I extended your rental to December 5th. Happy holidays, like something like that. Wow. So I was like, whoa. That might be the best customer service I've ever had for anything. So it was really, really cool. So rent stuff on Alamo Draft House's website, I guess. But I really enjoyed it. But it once it finished, and I was thinking about it and thinking about how to talk about it with this, it just reminded me, like, all these game documentaries I'm watching lately are so depressing, because like the not for resale one ends with saying these mom and pop shops close. The Library of Congress now has video games in it, but, retail, retro mom and pop shops, it's such a hard business. And then the other one, like Console Wars, I watched, it's like, yes, SEGA's not a company fighting Nintendo anymore. Like, some would say they lost that war or whatever. I'm using quotes a lot this episode. but it's just like these are good documentaries, but like it's sad how they end, essentially. And they really glossed over, they didn't mention any of the console stuff really with Midway. It really is arcade focused, hence the name Insert Coin. But it's really good. I think it's really well done. And they talk about like their WrestleMania game, how crazy it was to have wrestlers in there. They talk about the Aerosmith game Revolution X, and getting like voiceover work with the band members, which is hilarious. And I'll say this, and even if it's spoiling something, it's still funny to watch this scene, because they have you played that, how it's an on-rail shooter where you're at some point you're like firing CDs at enemies because you need the music to fight for justice and stuff of Aerosmith, you know?
I've got a feeling I owned it, but I don't think I ever played it. Like, it's one of those games I picked up and just never got a chance to play.
Super generic cover on the Saturn. It's for the Saturn though, I believe, or Sega CD. Crap.
It's on the Saturn.
Maybe even Genesis. Okay.
No, I'm sure it's on the Saturn. I'm sure it was.
But it's hilarious watching them do. Joe Perry, the lead guitarist from Aerosmith, is doing voiceover work, and there's scenes where, you know, they just say, like, you did something, they're like, all right, go get them, or like, do this thing, or like, you did it, or like, you saved us, you saved the world. And how voice directing works is someone's feeding them lines to like get a bunch of takes and stuff. And at one point, one dude from Midway says, okay, and I say rock and roll, and Joe Perry's like, I'm not going to say that. It's hilarious because you ask one of the, like, arguably one of the most famous guitarists and one of the most famous rock bands to just yell rock and roll. That's fucking cheesy as hell. Like, rock stars don't just yell rock and roll when they're happy about stuff, you know? So I just thought, because it was a funny chain of like, say, all right, say it in a different tone, like say like, all right, or say like, yeah, now say rock and roll. I'm not going to say that. Yeah. It's really great. It really made me laugh because of how, like, it was just the nerd versus the rock star at that point for a split second, you know?
I've just looked it up. It was on the Genesis. It was on the arcade, SNES, Genesis, PC, Saturn, and PlayStation.
Holy crap. Okay.
So it was on a few consoles.
It was another time they did, like, digital graphics of stuff with the band members and everything. I guarantee you, if you walked into an arcade, you've walked past Revolution X and maybe not even touched it. But no, it's a really fun documentary though. It's hour 42 minutes long. I'm just looking at the listing here. That's the only reason I know that. But I definitely say check it out. I would, if it got a physical release, I probably would grab it because I'd be interested in some of the like interviews they didn't use and things like that. But it was. They kind of glossed over the going to Congress and stuff like that with Night Trap. They didn't really bring that up because it was about Midway overall. It wasn't just about Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
And it was like NBA Jam and stuff. It's interesting hearing how like Michael Jordan wanted nothing to do with NBA Jam, but then after he saw how much it blew up, he wanted to be added in there. So they would have to actually like physically deliver chipsets to put into the machines and stuff to like update them. I mentioned Ernest Cline. I didn't mean to say that he works for Midway. That's the author of Ready Player One. He's the first interview in this documentary. So since it started with that, since I just finished Ready Player One, just finished the movie, and then this documentary starts with an interview with him, I'm like, oh, this could be pretty interesting. And I thought it was. So yeah, I definitely recommend it.
Yeah. It amazed me that these massive powerhouses from back in like the 90s and stuff and early 2000s, how they just disappeared basically. Because as you say, Midway was huge, not only in the arcade but actually also on consoles. Because I mean, it obviously had like the Mortal Kombat games and stuff, but they were like had the Rush games as well, like San Francisco Rush, you know, LA Rush, Rush 2,
Cruising.
You had the cruising games, yes, exactly, all the cruising games, which all ported to console, and they worked on some fairly decent console games as well. But
it was they do mention how like when they first showed off Cruising USA, that eventually was on the N64. Like what they showed off was not the N64 version and stuff like that. That was an interesting part, but it just really sounds like that was another kind of, you get these certain images of like how it was to work with making games. Midway really feels like you were in a just rock stars, because you have different departments. Like one department's working on Mortal Kombat, this other department's working on NBA Jam, and they're trying to like kind of one up each other with how absurd things are, with like He's on Fire and stuff like that. They have the guy who the announcer for NBA Jam is in this too, which is it's pretty interesting to hear from him too.
Yeah.
So.
And they worked on things like Hydro Thunder as well, which
yes.
for Dreamcast fans, great Dreamcast race, also in the arcade. They did Moon Patrol. Moon Patrol is a classic 80s game.
Yeah,
it's Moon Patrol.
I mean, they had hits from beginning to end, because the first major thing they did was Smash TV. And like that is one of the more inspirational games in existence, I would argue. Totally. And of course, Mortal Kombat and stuff. But it's just, it's really interesting. I guess if to give an idea of how kind of prestigious they were seen, when they this I found out from the Q&A, they actually, when they were working on the WrestleMania game, or Wrestle Arcade, I forget what it was exactly, but WWF, they were like talking to Vince McMahon and stuff, and he came down and like Vince McMahon gave them a tour of like WW stuff, and but they were in talks of like, could we actually get some of the personalities, like some of the wrestlers to whatever? And Vince is like, oh yeah, we'll send them out to you. So like, without question, they had these wrestling superstars just walking around Midway Studios. Like that's how they knew this was going to be a big deal to have a wrestling game and have them in it, because it's cross promotion at that point, you know. So
yeah, was that WrestleMania, WWF WrestleMania? I
think it was. It's a shame we don't have Chris on right now. He would know exactly what I'm talking about.
I'm actually on their Wikipedia site, and it looks like that is WWF WrestleMania, the arcade game. Ooh, yeah,
okay, yeah.
But it's companies like Midway and Acclaim. I don't even remember Acclaim. Yeah, they were massive as well. They published some of Midway's console games and stuff. I always tie them together in my head, and they just disappeared basically off the face of the earth. It's like, wait, where did they go?
Right.
But so
one of the
incredible.
There's a lot of people kind of pass off those different collections you see on consoles and PC and stuff, but there's two Midway collections that were really good on 360 and PS3 that had like Gauntlet or something on it too. Oh, yeah. I can't remember exactly, but they did a lot, and it's crazy to think how that did just disappear. Like they weren't just a one-hit wonder, So
yeah. And they also did loads. I didn't realize they actually did a load of pinball machines as well. By looking at this,
yeah. Well, before they were Midway, it was Williams and I can't remember now. See, I started the documentary last Wednesday and finished it like, what's that? Oh, Bally. Yep.
Bally. Yeah. Wow.
So
yeah, sad times. But
you should definitely check it out, Graham. You sound like you're pretty interested already.
Yeah, definitely. I wanted to also try out the last documentary you sort of mentioned with the Blockbuster one, the last Blockbuster. Could not get it in the UK at all.
Really?
I can't find a place that sells it or anything. I can't seem to find a place that will stream it, at least not legally.
Okay. Can you not even order it from Blockbuster, the last Blockbuster's website?
Oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. So maybe I'll type that in now.
Oh yeah, do that, because that's where I got it through. Like the actual Bend, Oregon Blockbuster. If they don't do international shipping, dude, I'll get it for you somehow. Like that's
okay.
I think it's a fun documentary. So
is that ben'sblockbuster.com?
Yeah, Bend is the city in Oregon where they're located.
Oh, okay. That seems like a prank site to me. Ben Blockbuster. Like
yeah.
Ben D Blockbuster.
Made of rubber. Here we are in Megavisions talking about documentaries of dead organizations and things.
Yep. We're on with the news. We're talking about MySpace and Bebo and all sorts of great things.
Yeah, everything relevant. Next, we're going to talk about our top 10 things we're listening to our Zunes right now. So
one day I'll get a Zune, that's for sure. So yeah, with that, I guess I'll move on to my pick of the week, which is one of the digital games I actually got on my Xbox the other day. I actually got it through EA Play, technically through Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, but it's also available on EA Play because I'm also paying for it as well digitally. But it's a game called Sea of Solitude. So I kind of went off EA games a while back because they started just turning out shit, but since Xbox Game Pass Ultimate has tied in EA Play, I thought I might as well look at these games because they might have some stuff on there, and they've put out some decent games that aren't the big games. There was like all the sports games, for example, or Medal of Honor. So I sort of decided to look into it. It's in the game, yeah. So yeah, like basically up until the Sega Saturn era, I thought EA are amazing, brilliant, and then as soon as that, after that, like they just died a death to me. I think I bought a couple of the Xbox. Well, I bought a couple of Xbox games, thinking, "Oh, EA, great!" I used to love playing EA on the Saturn and Mega Drive and stuff. So Xbox, GameCube, whatever. Started playing them. I was like, "These are some of the worst games I've ever played." I was like, "These are just not fun games in any shape or form." They ruined. Well, they ruined James Bond games. They ruined Harry Potter and stuff. I was just like, "This is." And this other games I was just playing, and like some of the sports games I was playing, I was like, this is not as fun as I remember. I remember FIFA 98 being really fun, and this is not so much fun anymore. But so anyway, that's not what.
Before you get away from them being strong in Genesis, sorry, we're having major lag issues today. I'm sorry. Before you get away from Genesis, because I didn't notice this until after the fact. They were the cartridges that were like bigger with those yellow chunks in them too sometimes. So like EA was the only one physically pushing the Genesis at the time to like get more out of that system, to the point that they had to fit more in the cartridges. So
yeah, there's also, I think there's some controversy around those cartridges though, that
really?
Something to do with licensing with Sega. I can't remember what it was, but they basically went against Sega's rules almost, or something. And in the end, Sega just had to let them do it, but they were the only ones who were allowed to do that size cartridge or something. I can't remember what it was. I need to do some research on that, but we can bring that up another day on another show maybe. But yeah. But anyway, sorry, Sea of Solitude, that's what I want to talk to you guys about. So yeah, it's on Xbox. I assume it's on PS4 and PC as well. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it's a really nice sort of almost indie style game. I believe it is an indie development studio that made it, but EA published it. And it's a story of loneliness and like emotions and stuff. And it's a 3D almost adventure game, I want to call it. You play as a girl called Kay, and her character is almost like a shadow. She's like shaded all in black, basically. So she's like a kind of shadow creature. And you navigate yourself across this flooded city. So it's like the ocean's risen and stuff, and the whole city's flooded. And at the start of the game, everything's dark. It's almost pitch black around you. You can just make out a few objects. And then you encounter this really light girl. Like, she's basically a girl who is glowing. And she tries to sort of talk to you and encourage you. But this monster, this dark shadow monster, like massive shadow monster, basically comes out and takes her. And effectively, the game is you are trying to navigate your way across this flooded city. You encounter these giant monster things who basically talk crap to you. They say really hurtful things. They put you down, sort of saying, you're useless, you're rubbish, you can't do anything. And it's, as you progress in the game, you uncover more of Kay's past and certain events in her life that have led to her becoming lonely and depressed. And it's quite an interesting way to do it, I think. And the monsters, actually at times the monsters can be quite scary. So there's you spend a lot of time in your boat. It's quite easy to move around the city and stuff. You've got like roofs of houses and buildings sort of sticking out. But at certain points you have to get off the boat and run across the rooftops and stuff. You can explore the city almost. But you also have to swim sometimes. And when you jump into the water, though, you are in danger of getting eaten by one of these massive monster creature things. And there's a mechanic in the game where you can sort of track roughly where the monster is. So the monsters often swim around. Not always. There's kind of a set pattern, but the pattern will change. So as soon as you move onto another rooftop, the pattern will change. But you have to track roughly where it is. And as soon as you jump in the water, the monster goes for you. So you kind of get almost like a Jaws moment that this music starts to build up and build up and build up. So you can't really swim around too much. You have to go out. And if you're really close to the edge of something, or the water is coming up just over the edge of the thing you're standing on, the monster will try and get you and will just ram into the side of the thing that you're on. And it's actually, the first time it happened, I was genuinely like, oh my god. So
that's interesting.
I've spoken before in the past how underwater and water things in games kind of freak me out since Tomb Raider, and this is kind of one of those games.
I have a legit fear of underwater, like deep, like the unknown. I guess it can be if we want to get spiritual about it. I just have a fear of the unknown, because like deep space frightens me a little bit too and stuff.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
This reminds me. I started playing Last of Us 2, and I won't get too far into it, but there's a lot of stealthy stuff that they use the environment a lot with how, like, if an enemy is coming towards you, you don't see their field of vision, but the music changes, like it swells a little bit when they are looking at you, but you aren't sure if they see you yet or not. So it sounds like this has that too, which it's not the Metal Gear Solid exclamation point, but it's more atmospheric that you know that they are creeping closer to you and stuff.
Yeah, so it sounds like Last of Us is doing it in a slightly different way, but yeah, kind of, I guess all on the same line.
But still more to not break the immersion anyway.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so they do it in a really good way, and in fact, there's some really good bits in it. So it's not all just about Kay, but it's stuff in Kay's life and stuff. But there's a bit where she goes into, like, the game kind of changes a couple of times. It's still kind of along the same thing, but there's a bit where you get out of the water and you're actually inside a building, which is like an old school effectively. And it's all these sort of shadowy creatures around, like who are basically meant to be school bullies. There's like hundreds of them, and you can't fight in this game. There's no way to really fight or push back.
Okay,
you can defeat them in certain ways. You have like this almost guiding light. It's called a flare. You can send out a flare like as much as you like, and keep sending this flare out. It's like a big orb that shoots through the sky, and it'll tell you your rough destination. It can't go through buildings though, but it will like hit a building, so you sort of know. Oh, you've got to go that way, so you need to go around this building, and then you can fire your flare again to see where it is. And when you're close enough, or when it's in direct open field of view, it will land, and you'll see it glowing to where it lands. So you can go, oh, that's where I need to go to. But occasionally, in the school environment, you could use your flare as a way to kind of stop these shadowy creatures getting you, because you could activate some lights and stuff, which will then make the shadow creature. But there's bits where you can't even do that, so you have to like basically get close to them and they'll chase you, and then you've got to try and run around them. And they don't kill you instantly, but if they attack you, I think it's 3 or 4 times. If they hit you, you die basically. But like as you're going through, there's like a whole bit which is all in darkness almost, and you're just following this little light orb that like you befriend. You call it Glowy, and it's sort of like it's just moving through this dark area, and you can barely see anything except for like these red eyes and like these sort of shadowy figures, and all you hear is like, "We're going to find you. We're going to kill you," and stuff like that. Just constantly, like, and it's just like really creepy. I was like, just walking through, going, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!"
That's cool. I mean, that's some of the best survival horror. Well, no, not some of the best survival horror games are the ones where you cannot fight back, because that is what defines the genre. Like, I won't go into any detail. Have you ever played the game Echo Night on PS1?
I have not.
Okay. The graphics have not aged well, but it's a mystery game involving ghosts, and you can die in it, but you have no weapons. And when I realized that, I liked the game a lot more. So it sounds interesting.
Yeah, and that's I think that's one of the reasons why I like Enemy Zero and Enemy Zero on the Sega Saturn.
Yeah,
you can fight back, but your weapon is so limited. You have to charge it up. And it's got a radius of like 2 meters, so you can't just like fire across the room and kill things. And your enemies are invisible as well, so it's almost like, holy crap! The only way you can tell is from like a motion detector thing, and so that terrified me, but. It's so good. But yeah, this is
cool.
I wouldn't say this is like a proper survival horror game, but it's very creepy, but it's done in a really good way, and it's sort of the way it evolves, like showing Kay's past and stuff, like some events that have happened in her life, which you can see that she's not a good, like, she's a good person at heart, but like she's done stuff that people would say that's not good, basically, if that makes sense.
She's a good girl, loves her mama, loves Jesus. And
America too. That's right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe it's closer to call it a survival thriller than horror. You know?
Yeah, possibly. It's a very. I've never really played a game quite. The closest game I can compare it to, and it's not even the same at all, is almost Limbo. I don't know if you've ever played Limbo, but Limbo is a 2D platformer, but it's the way the atmosphere and stuff within Limbo kind of reminds me of this a little bit, but this is all 3D and open world and really cool. But it's kind of interesting because the water levels in the city you're going around actually rise and fall at points, depending on what's happening. So you get to explore the city, like keep going back and forth around the city, but you're following almost like a journey, a path to tell Kay's past, effectively. And
Okay.
yeah, I just recommend checking it out. So yeah, if you're subscribing to EA Play or Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, you can get this for free effectively because it's part of your subscription. If not, it's available to buy as well. But yeah, very interesting. Sea of Solitude, really cool.
Cool.
And now we're moving on to our main feature discussion, which we're going to call Unexpected Christmas. So we're going to be looking at some games that have Christmas within them, but you may not expect them to have a Christmas connection to them. So it's something that came out of the blue for you. And yeah, well, I'll kick this one off. The game I want to talk about it's a Sega published game. It's made by Tri-Ace. It's on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. It's called Resonance of Fate. I don't actually have my copy with me. I think it's actually my parents' house, which is a bit annoying. But do you know about Resonance of Fate at all?
Yeah, they thought it was an ingenious idea to release it the same day as Final Fantasy 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, if you don't know, Resonance of Fate is I guess is the best way to describe it, is a JRPG game.
Yeah.
It's made by Tri-Ace, who are a big JRPG games developer. And yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's right up against Final Fantasy, arguably the biggest RPG of all time, franchise of all time. So no one
Think God of War came out that week too.
Oh yeah, I think it was like the worst time for them to publish it. I don't know if Sega did this, but it's
not
basically
not a good debut, or not a good week for a debut title, essentially.
Exactly, it's a brand new IP, so no one had even heard about it, and yeah. But so yeah, effectively, Resonance of Fate. It's, I guess, the best way to talk about it. It's a oh god, I've just forgotten the word. It's
steampunk.
That's the word, steampunk. I was about to say cyberpunk, but that's completely wrong. It's a steampunk style game. So I can't really go into the whole storyline. I played it when it first came out, and to be honest, I've not played it since and kind of forgotten most of it. But it's a game that you would never expect. There's basically no connection to Christmas at all in it. It's all, like, as I say, steampunk. It's got some really cool combat scenes where you it's like turn-based combat, but it's very dynamic. The way the characters run around, they do these really cool somersaults. And they put out guns and start firing and stuff. It's really awesome.
It's got
really
a learning
cinematic.
curve to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember when I first started playing, I was like, oh, this is kind of easy, and then suddenly just like there's a lot more strategy behind the combat, which I had to really sort of work out. And but you're kind of. Oh,
I'm fairly confident. I'm fairly confident most people don't know about this game.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you are a Sega fan, I wouldn't be surprised if it fell under your radar. But the combat is like if you tried to make Bayonetta into not an RTS, a tactics game almost, because you do have range and stuff like that, but you are using like gun fu in it almost, because you're doing acrobatic nonsense while you're using handguns and stuff at people.
Yeah.
So it looked really cool, but I had no fucking idea what I was doing when I was playing it.
Yeah, it's special. Yeah, actually, really cinematic, really, really impressive when you just to watch the game. There's tons of videos on YouTube if you want to check it out, because it's a really fun game just to watch, let alone play. Playing it is really good as well. And but yeah, so I've kind of set in this from memory. It's like almost like a floating city base type thing in the sky, which
steampunk.
Yeah, very steampunk. All the stuff around you is kind of got that steampunky kind of brass, copper, browns, greys, metal colours and stuff, and almost literally nothing to do with winter or Christmas within it until, from memory, it's very late in the game. I think it was like one of the second to last missions or something. There's actually 2 Christmas related missions within this game. So one of them, effectively, you have to go around and find items for Christmas decorations, and from memory, I think that's just a side mission which you don't have to actually do. But then there's another one which is called Merry Christmas, and you basically play as the girl who's Leanne, and she dresses up in a sort of Santa dress, like classic traditional female Santa outfit, and you've got these 2 guys dressed in like these weird reindeer costumes. From memory, they look almost like bears, but they are meant to be reindeer. And you go into a battle mode, but the battle mode isn't to fight and kill enemies; it's to give presents to kids. And so you kind of do like these awesome like somersaults in the air, and like but instead of putting out your guns, you put out like a present and like throw it at the kid, and it's like almost like a mini explosion, but the kid's holding a present going, yay! But it's from memory, the kids are chasing you around the battlefield, so it's almost like it is kind of almost like a battle. But it was just such a weird thing because, as I say, from memory, I feel like it happens right near the end of the game, like maybe one or two main missions before the final missions. But yeah, it's just so out of place, but really fun because it was just like cool, like a fun little break from what you had been doing for the whole game pretty much. And yeah, it's just so unexpected for me. I was just like, this is insane. I love it. And I mean, the whole game is really fun. It's really good storyline. It takes a good chunk of time as well, but I'd say not as long as like some of the Final Fantasy games. But yeah, so Scotty, have you actually played this or have you only just seen it?
I literally played it at a demo booth at a PAX one year, and whoever was watching the SEGA booth just kind of laughed at me as I tried to figure out the battle system.
Okay.
That's it. I thought I owned it, but apparently I don't. I was going to grab it to show people the cover, but oh well.
Fair enough. Yeah. The cover, I can't remember what the cover is now. I think it's just
three generic white kids.
Pretty much. Kind of. I think one of them's got the kind of Cloud Strife almost white spiky haircut by the looks of it. I was just looking at it now. It's got a picture of Leanne at the front holding some guns, and then like one of them's got like a machine gun behind her, and another one's like doing that, or like to the side. So there's like three sort of teenage kids who are like the main protagonists within the game that you play as and control. And but it's really awesome. Just really bizarre to have that Christmas scene in it. So yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so check it out. Actually, go on YouTube. You can find those missions I just mentioned on YouTube. The one where you're finding items for decorations less interesting from memory, like it was just kind of a side thing. But the other one, we actually throwing presents at kids. But from memory, that was a main mission you had to do. It was just like it's a story mission that you get stepped into, which was great. But it's out there. You can watch it. So Scotty, what about you? Have you got any games that you didn't expect to have Christmas in, but surprise, Christmas?
Yeah. The first one I'll mention is Snatcher on the Sega CD, Saturn in Japan. But when you're walking downtown, for anyone that doesn't know what Snatcher is, what's his name? No, that's not his name. I forget. Kojima really likes Blade Runner, and he made a game about it. But Metal Gear's in it too. He's on the cover, I think, sort of. The little guy. But no, when you are asking questions downtown and stuff, Jingle Bells is playing the whole time. So it is actually during Christmas time that this takes place. But you don't get that impression at first. But then you keep talking to people, and just in the background, is going on the whole time. It's even on the soundtrack. If you get the soundtrack for Snatcher, their version of Jingle Bells is on there. Is it called something else? I'm not even sure. Probably, but Merry Xmas Neo Kobe City. I don't know. This is the limited run thing, cassette soundtrack. But no, and you actually also talk to Santa, who ends up being an informant. You talk about drugs and stuff with Santa, but it's interesting because this game is just very, very dark, and it's a mystery kind of crime-solving not action, but adventure game, almost a point-and-click thing, just going through dialogue. But yeah, it's cool to have that taking place, and you see the different. It talks about the different colors and stuff that you see with the different lights and decorations and whatever. And you do, like I said, the main thing is like Jingle Bells is playing, and you do talk to Santa as he is a character in the game. But it's not something you expect with how the game starts out. So it adds like a peaceful tone to a definite dark overtone that's going on in the game. So it was not expected when I played it for the first time last year. But it's neat. It definitely adds a mood to it. Have you actually played Snatcher, Graham?
I have not. I've seen a lot of video footage of it though. Like it's one of those games. I don't know if it came out in the UK. I could be wrong on that. So
I'm not sure. It's stupid expensive on the Sega CD. So this is a repro. I will just admit that right now. Okay. But it's pretty. Just open, please. Case would not open, but it's a good looking thing and everything. But yeah. Santa's in it. Jingle bells are playing. It takes place during Christmas. So is it a Christmas game? You decide. Crack the code, and Junkers, Snatchers and Junkers, Neo Kobe City, AD 2047.
Nice.
And then the other one, unless you had anything to say about Snatcher.
I mean, it's one of those games that I think sounds really interesting to me. It's one of those games I wouldn't play. I think as a child, I wouldn't have played it. It wouldn't have interested me.
I know I wouldn't have.
Now I'm older. It's almost these dialogue-based kind of mystery puzzle-solving games are actually more interesting to me. And so, yeah, I might actually look into it a bit more. I know it was released on some other different consoles, wasn't it, at the time? Because I think it was on the PC.
America only got it on CD.
Yeah, so I think in Japan it was on like the MSX2 and PC Engine and stuff, which had uncensored content in them.
Right.
So there was actually a tiny bit of nudity, I believe, in it, and also some.
Yeah, it definitely got away with a teen rating.
Yeah. And I think in the original Japanese one, from what I've read and saw, there's a scene where I think there's a dog's corpse. It might have even been a robot dog. I'm not sure, but a dog's corpse is found, and in the original Japanese version, like it's actually, I think you see its heart, or you can see something pulsating in the corpse. But on the Western releases, that was all that animation was stopped. So it's just like a dead body, basically.
Oh,
yeah.
there's
like twitching or something.
Well, there is stuff that's censored in Japan because decapitation is very much taboo over there. And that happens in this game. But it is, yeah, there's some intense scenes. It should probably be M-rated. I will say, if you play this now, don't be ashamed if you have to look up a guide, because some stuff I had no idea, and for the sake of progression, we played it for the Sideshow podcast, but for the sake of like progressing each week, I had to use a guide. Yeah. But it's a good game. Snatcher's a good game.
It's a game that really interests me, and if I can get a chance to play it, I probably will. So yeah, maybe I'll try and pick up a repro or something as well, because I know some people just don't like the idea of repros, but when some of these games are like, $200 or something, it's like,
yeah,
dude, I can't afford to pay that for like all these great old games that you just don't get to play anymore. But yeah.
It was, you mentioned the PC Engine, because it is on the PC Engine / TurboGrafx Mini that came out, but it's only in Japanese, so good luck with the text-based adventure game. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, but that's cool. And the only other one that I thought of right away was Shenmue, because in the first Shenmue, it does take place. You can eventually experience Christmas, so to speak. December 25th anyway, and Santa will just be walking around Deboita or wherever it is. I forget now. But he is useless in the game. He serves no purpose other than to greet you, and I think he tells you to go home at one point or don't stay out late. I don't remember. But he just says Merry Christmas. You can talk to him all day. When I first played Shenmue, I got legitimately excited seeing Santa walk around, because I didn't experience like Christmas just randomly in a game at that point yet. But seeing Santa walking around was like, oh, I got to talk to Santa. Maybe he's going to help me find Chinese people that speak Chinese. Stuff. Just classic Shenmue. But that was fun. That was a nice little surprise seeing him walk around, because there's so much going on in that game already.
Yeah, I think that's such a nice touch, because that game, as you say, that game is massive, but because it's almost time-based, you can literally, you start on a certain, I can't remember what the date it is now you start on, but you start on a certain date, and the time does progress each day, that it will then turn into the next month and stuff. So it's just really cool that they thought, oh yeah, Christmas is going to come up. Let's include Santa. Does that happen in Shenmue 2 at all? I've never... I finished Shenmue 2, but I just played through. I never bothered to wait around for the days to pass. I just progressed.
That game is so much bigger that if Santa's in it, I wouldn't be surprised if I missed him entirely when I played.
Right. You mean there's not a Santa on every corner?
Well, I mean, like, yeah, right. In the first Shenmue, there's essentially one main street or one main section of town that you're exploring. But in Shenmue 2, there's kind of 2 cities that you explore.
Yeah.
So I could totally understand if you miss Santa entirely. I mean, if you want to Google real quick Shenmue 2 Santa,
That's what I'm doing.
find out. But yeah, it was still fun because it made no sense that he was walking around that town. Like, he didn't have, like, it was just him. He wasn't like on a bike with presents or like carrying gifts. He's just walking around.
Oh, he's got a whole backstory. The thing that came up was for the first Shenmue. He's got a backstory. I didn't know if you know this guy, the Santa. He's called I gotta go and pronounce his name, but Santa Mayo or Mano Santa.
Mayonnaise.
And he is a retired marathon runner who is now a sandwich board man walking through Dobrita. I can never pronounce the name, in Osaka. And in the middle of Christmas holidays, he advertises the shops, apparently. That's his purpose. So apparently he holds up signboards and stuff.
I've never seen a damn one. He's doing a shit job.
So apparently he advertises shops such as the Ajichi Chinese restaurant during the day and the MJQ Jazz Bar at night. So, and his zodiac sign is Scorpio and he has an AB blood type.
Of course.
Wow. And he's born in 1939, November the 7th. This is
all right.
I'm being serious. This is fascinating.
He's like almost 40 when you're playing Shenmue. Then
wow,
when you encounter him,
insane. But yeah, okay, I can't find anything for Shenmue 2 about Santa. That's brilliant. Yes, nothing's coming up for. I've just done a different type of search, and nothing's coming up for that. So there we go. Although one of the results that just came up is Shenmue 2 cancelled.
Oh, well, I hope they decide to bring it back. There's not any like downloadable stuff for Christmas related stuff for Shenmue 2 that you recall, or
not that I don't really remember much downloadable stuff on the Shenmue games as such.
Yeah, I mean there was the online pass or whatever for the first game, but that was more so a database and like leaderboards. Yeah,
I feel like that didn't really have any proper downloadable content. I mean, well, here's the thing: the Dreamcast, while it did technically have downloadable content, most of it was actually all stuff that was hidden on the discs and stuff. So, and you downloaded a little file to unlock it because the VMU's memory size was tiny. But yeah, I can't find anything about it. But that's pretty cool. I think it's just an awesome thing to have. And I haven't got this in the notes, but just very quickly I'll touch on, there's another game which I did not expect to have Christmas stuff in, which is Sega Touring Cars on the Sega Saturn. I don't know if you've ever played that game at all.
Nope.
So it's an arcade racer. So it's imagine Sega Rally, but you're in touring cars and stuff. And the Saturn version is notorious for having a terrible frame rate. But I don't know if it's the frame rate being bad or not, but it's the fastest racing game I think I've ever played in my life on the Saturn. Like, not just saying it's the fastest game on the Saturn, it's the fastest game I've ever played, but the Saturn version is, because you just seem to go so quickly. The world is rushing past you. And like the tracks are as long as Sega Rally tracks, but rather than doing a lap, like one lap in like a minute and 30 seconds, you're doing a lap in like 20 seconds. It's insane. But that game, so it's just a driving game, but in December, I'm pretty sure it might just be on December the 25th, suddenly it gets a Christmas theme going. It's like all winter, and from memory it's like Christmas trees and stuff, and it's like, this is awesome. Like, it's such a nice little touch to have in the game. So yeah, I love it when Sega did things like that, just nice little touches.
I just miss date and time based stuff in games.
I was about to say, the Saturn there's quite a few games on the Saturn which use the actual time-based system, not just for save files, to actually say, hey, this time of year, let's do some fun stuff. Let's throw out some cool things. Yeah, miss all that stuff. But there we go. And with that will bring us to the end of that discussion and the end of the show. So, Scotty, do you have any site or magazine or streaming announcements at all for us to shout out to people?
Just keep an eye out for that Puyo Puyo Tetris 2 review. And there's streaming stuff happening almost every day throughout the week. We've always got Thursday night throwdowns, but otherwise just stay tuned to our Twitter for updates on that. We got the Dreamcast out to the winner, Puravash88 from the Dreamcast Marathon finally. That's a personal record for me because I'm horrible at shipping things out. I actually got it out within the same year that the marathon took place. So that means all the prizes are out. So thank you again, guys, for the support with that. You can still go to our Extra Life, which is tinyurl.com. MVEL 2020. We're getting pretty close to $2,000 actually donated after Brett did some more stuff and push for plugs towards that.
Wow.
So that'd be really cool to do. I have my Christmas night stream coming up at some point. Again, Twitter's the best place to keep up with what we're actually doing on Twitch. And we are going to have magazine news coming up pretty soon. So if you're not already on our Patreon, please support us on patreon.com/megavisions. That's everything from me.
Excellent. And just for anybody who doesn't know, our Twitter is at MegaVisionsMag. So that's at the MegaVisionsMag. Is that also our Instagram? I forget. I always forget which one it is.
No, Instagram's just Megavisions.
Perfect. I think Facebook might be MegaVisionsMag as well. I can't remember, but just type in Megavisions. Hopefully it will pop up. So yeah, fantastic. I don't think there's really anything from me. As I say, hopefully my Arcade Racing Legends review will come out this week as well. But yeah, I have to see how my work is because it's just been manic since. Well, it's been manic for the last 5 months, it seems. Anyway, perfect. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for people for listening. And yeah, hopefully, maybe we'll have someone back with us next week. Maybe Chris will be back, or Anti-Chris, or Nick. We haven't seen Nick Flair for a while, so we'll bring someone back. And yeah, have a great show and have a great week, everybody. So catch you later. Be excellent to each other.
Christmas. Honey, I gotta tell you about this sandwich.